Every week, a new band. Brought to you by NZ On Air. Active Life! Yeah.
Stocking faces, so bold and so fair, holding out your hand for sanguine island pear, ripe enough to cool off the famine, high enough to cool it a day. But I ride this way. I ride this way out to sea. I don't wanna break out, I just want to peek from the crest of the wave out to eternity. Been a long time holding all those secrets. You were the first to give away. But I ride this way. I ride this way out to sea.
Kia ora koutou katoa, kei te whakarongo mai koe ki te Radioactive FM, ko Omiria Toko Ingoa, and it's time for this week's active live session made with support from New Zealand On Air. We are joined live in studio by Ebony Lamb. Kia ora, how's it going?
Kia ora, thank you for having me. It's good.
Thank you for coming in. Congratulations on the album release last month.
Thank you.
How does it feel?
It feels incredible that I'm playing outside of my lounge, my whole record.
In the radioactive lounge this afternoon.
I'm in the radioactive lounge and it feels great to be at home. You know, Pōneke is my village. This is where I've lived for 22 years. And what a beautiful studio you have.
Thank you, thank you. And this album, has it been a long time coming? I mean, there's this process of single releases, like half the album was,
Half the record is a single release situation.
yeah. What
Well,
was the decision there to do it that way?
Well, actually, I released a single a year ago called Take My Hands at Night. And that was a good kickstart because I was still in the process of working out how I was going to release. And my friend Jess Cornelius, big ups to Jess Cornelius, she's great. And her partner Michael Cronin, who's in Taisa Girls Freedom Band, they came over from LA to do a tour. And she said, we're doing a double headline tour. We have to do this together. Would you like to, and it was a good kick because then I had to release something and stop holding it all in. So I released that one single a year ago and did a bunch of touring. I think I did 3 tours in about 2.5 months.
Wow.
Last year, and it was a really good way to get back on the horse. COVID put a lot of brakes on my release plans. This record was released in it was written from 2018 right up until 2020. And then it was recorded in the summer of early summer 2021 with Beck Runga and Cody Nielsen at their home studio. And then my partner Graham Antler and I spent a lot of time doing stuff in our home studio and then sending it up to Beck and Cody. And but it was tracked live together. But that was a process to get to them, and I'm glad that it was a slow process because then I got to, and who knew that was ever going to happen? I didn't imagine that in my wildest dreams. So I'm glad I was a slow burn.
And so were those 5 tracks that you released as singles ones that you chose, or sort of just it came that they were ready at the right time? And
the first single, Take My Hands at Night, I got funding for a music video which blew my mind, and I got to make this great epic number with Ezra Simons from Earth Tongue, and that was awesome. And then for this part of the release where it was more about, okay, we're going to put out a record now and I'm going to release on Slow Time Records, which is Nadia Reid's label, and then we had to have a timeline, and it was well, it has to be this year. So I had to hurry up. So Studio Elga, which is a very DIY outfit, helped me make my daughter, my sister, my son, and I love that music video, and I love that song. That song did not get funding. I tried so hard, and it didn't get funding, but we made our own creation. I'm a real DIY maker. I think if you're waiting for someone to fund you, you could wait a very long time, and the best thing you can do is painful, but your limitations are your greatest asset because it will give you skills that you never knew you needed. So I'm a photographer. My partner is extremely good with technical stuff, and I tell him what to do. And he's happy because then together we make work that we can't do by ourselves. So I really believe in the DIY independent spirit. I'm pretty punk about it. I never got funding through the early years of Eben Sparrow. We my former band, we put on shows. No one got paid except for technicians, and we saved all that money, and then we were able to make our own records. And I think that's appropriate. You got to have a bit of burn. You got to have a little fire in you to get over. Believe in the work, basically. So it's so every time I get funded, I do feel like that's I feel honoured that they've recognised the work, but I was going to let it out anyway.
right, yeah.
Yeah. And then Salt Sand Sea, I loved making that music video with my band, who aren't on the record, but who are my live band, Phoebe Johnson from Revolver and Hikarangi Shavarian Carr, who's in French for Rabbits and every other jazz band in Wellington. He even played with Darts recently, He's just we love playing together as a trio. We're very lucky. I've done a lot of shows with them now. But they're in my music video, and quite rightly, we love playing together. And it's like a collage of my photographic brain But yeah, we made that. I hired a camera for $100,
Wow.
and we cried our way through making it. It was great.
How do you feel about those final products, comparing the ones where you just pulled resources and connections that you had around you versus the ones that did have that more sort of finished funding idea at their final product? Is some more special than others, or is it just the journey? And
They make me really happy. I think I wouldn't put it out if I didn't like what we'd made, I would have not put it out, but I might have put it out in a more simplified way that I did like. Like, I think it has to align with your aesthetic. And I've had really great responses in it. You know, this is a humble offering with some big names attached, but actually it's not a pop record. It's a real record. It's a songwriter record, and I was lucky enough to get funding for Drive Me Around, which I love that music video because I got to collaborate with Jake Munro, and he and Sham Patel, who, you know, Sham is from Wellington. He's overseas at the moment, but the three of us get on really well, so I feel like I found my people.
Fun, yeah.
I'm very honest with them, and it was a very small group, so that was really awesome, and we got to film majority of it outside the National Library, which is this big brutalist building, and I love that because I believe in libraries. And I believe in an art brain. I believe in that. I think, well, what is the music video for? It's a connector to what I'm trying to land for you to understand. So yeah. And then the last music video was Come Put a Record On, and I flew all the way down to Otago, to the Otago Peninsula, and made it again with Jake Munro and Oscar Means from Soaked Oats. They
awesome.
co-directed it, and it's like working with kin. Like, I feel like I'm connected to them visually, and I could be honest, and we tried out a bunch of stuff. And Sham Patel did the grading on it. So it was still that team, and I feel that's like, when you find good people to work with, that's the clincher. Like, that makes you be yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like everything. I mean, I think the thing about that big thing, I went all the way down to Otago to do it. That was also like, it's kind of special to rise to the occasion and do something a bit different. Yeah. Yeah.
What was the reasoning behind that location
That's
choice?
where Jake lives, and it was easier for him. But we also had Quarantine Island, which is this little island between Port Chalmers and Portobello, and we had it to ourselves, just us and the caretaker John and the boatman John, and it was one of the most special places I've spent time on. It felt like me, you know, so yeah, it was good. Real good.
I really love that music video and like that exploration of shape with the scenery and with the use of your body and how you've explored that. Was that something that came naturally, or what was the shooting process like with?
I think
finding
that
that
because
visual?
I'd worked with Jake before, and I knew Oscar because I'd actually played in front of him at he's part of Space Academy, so we just had a connection, and I think that's one less vulnerability. I could be vulnerable with them. I don't feel that I've done that always with other people. I'm quite protective. I don't know many artists that aren't totally sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So special to find though.
Yeah, special to find that, definitely.
So what's the next tune you have for us this afternoon?
Well, maybe we should do that tune so that it like flows on in the conversation.
Perfect.
Yeah, so this is called Come Put a Record On.
Don't say my name. I cannot awake. Say I love you with the night eyes, but you came on with so much less. Everybody's talking that you're on doing, but they can't see the stress. Don't say my name. I cannot wait. Come but a record on. Come but a record on. Come but a record on. Don't say I know I'm coming at you right. I see your face and I know that you've been getting high. I heard you were waiting out. I know it's coming at you right. Out your eyes. Out your eyes. Come but a record on. Come but a record on. Come but a record on. Don't say I know I'm coming at you right with the night eyes. Night eyes. Come but a record on. Come but a record on. Come but a record on. Don't say I know I'm coming at you right.
No mai hoki mai ki te Active Live with Ebony Lamb. That was beautiful. That was Come Put a Record On. Still got the record muffling. It sounds really lovely, actually.
I will turn it down.
Tell me about this little device that you've got here.
I have a Roland 404 MK2, and inside it is a whole lot of secrets.
The secret black box.
It's a whole lot of secrets. A really big part of my record is a lovely man called Graham Antler. And we've been playing together for 10 years. We lived together. We've been playing together. And he is a huge part of this record. He is the lead guitar, the quirky, weird lead guitar parts, and the additional engineer outside of Beck and Cody. And he's helped me sculpt. We did this thing together where I've been mentored recently by David Long, and I've been really thinking a long time about cinematic soundscapes. And when I go to the movies now, I'm totally ruined because I can hear the drama in a different way. And I've been thinking a lot about production for the last few years, and it has felt a little bit like an impenetrable wall, and I didn't know where to start because I am quite dyslexic, and I don't learn even from YouTube very easily. I need someone to kind of, as Jason says, sit there and be your hands. It's so annoying, but but the combination of his technical expertise and my art brain means that together we've created these soundscapes. So we've got a little, I call it the Kylie mini log, which is a terrible name, but it's a mini log, and we've got a MIDI keyboard, and we make and find textures and then shift them all around. And then we made this for the record so that the live shows could have the added element that you would get maybe with a third or a fourth person. But I love being a trio, actually. It's really raw and kind of quite, you got nowhere to hide. Just like this live session. You've got nowhere to hide. But as a result, it means that the songs get this kind of treatment, and I've always wanted to do something like this. I'm looking forward to next year kind of creating more and more scapes. Graham Antler and I also did like the podcast sound for an RNZ podcast recently called Mr. Little Meets Mr. Big, and it's a true justice story made with Stephen Price, and it was epic to go through that journey of like what do you need to, how audio is so important to tell a story through tension or resistance or completion or layerings, and I could go on and on, so I'll stop there, but it's something I think about a lot, and it's also something that I get visually. So like music videos are actually they're not like the be all and end all, but they are really important in my mind. I think about Björk. She often says what her music wouldn't land if she didn't have a visual for you to understand her point of view to land it. And as a result, when you think of Björk, you immediately think of colours and shapes. And I didn't know until recently that not everybody has a cinema in their brain, but I have a cinema in my brain all the time. And so do others, and that's why it's nice to talk about.
So beautifully into the next thing I wanted to ask you about, which is, I guess, your image, like these beautiful and very distinctive shots that have come along with this album. Talk me through the colouring, the fit, the angles. How did this come about?
I am in love with a New Zealand photographer who's also in a band called Wellness. Shout out to Wellness from Auckland. But her name is Frances Carter. She's the most, she's into shapes and colours, and we have a crossover. There's an incredible photographer that we both really love, who's in the fashion. I quite like fashion photography because it's often really forward-thinking. It's really original. It's pushing all these boundaries. I'm not talking about catalogues. I'm talking about like high-end original ideas. And I feel like they are in a similar boat to music. They are trying to create new spaces, and sometimes in a conflicting and sometimes in a really interesting way. So on the music video shoot, Take My Hands at Night, she was the gaffer. And then we stopped halfway through the shoot, and we photographed me in all these different weird lights in this incredible studio in Auckland. And I had Lara Daly, who's actually a Wellingtonian, who's a makeup artist. And, those kind of assets for your artistic vision are really important. I don't know if makeup artists get enough kudos for the work that they do. I used to be a dancer, and I learnt a long time ago the value of theatre makeup and stuff, actually from John Trimmer, who passed away. I met him when I was 14 on a ballet workshop, and he did half of his face as a wicked witch, and the other half of his face is like one of those crazy princesses, like drag princesses, mean sisters from Cinderella or something. And it was so he really gave it the integrity that it
Yeah.
deserves, how powerful that stuff is. So, yeah, I wanted to, in the words of my sister-in-law, go hard or go home, Ev. Like, you know, I've taken quite a few of the photographs of myself, but I really did a lot of soul searching, and I found 2020 one of the hardest years of my life. Some people didn't. I found also some real gems in it. I could just wear whatever I wanted. I looked like such a weirdo by the end of lockdown because I didn't care anymore, you know. But I did a lot of listening to people who make films. Like, I think there's incredible world out there, like the Lincoln Center in New York has all these artists who come and talk there about film and about their production ideas. And Gregory Crutzen is an incredible American photographer, and he teaches at the Yale University and had interviewed like all these incredible artists, like musicians and directors, art makers, and it was fun, and they talked about their processes and stuff, and I got to realise one of the biggest takeaways I got was collaboration is the most powerful thing you can do in this work.
Yeah.
And as a lone wolf, that was hit home to me because I quite like doing everything myself and being a pain in the backside. And when you give people the job to do their artistry to the highest calibre in relation to you, and you say, I trust you, great things happen.
Yeah,
so I think with
scary.
Frances, that's what happened. I totally trusted her, and I trusted Lara. So, yeah.
And as you mentioned, you are a photographer yourself. What was that relationship like being on the other side, especially after letting go of the wheel and trusting other people?
I'm just like everybody else. I know how to do it. I was in a good space to do it. I had a job to do. I had to honour the record but I don't photograph easily. But I did trust Frances. So I felt good about everything. And I felt blessed that I was working with them. But on most days, I'm just like everybody else. I find it quite psychologically challenging. And I don't want to be represented in a way that isn't in keeping with my artistic intention. I think everybody wants to be understood. Yeah. And this record is really about, so the record, you know, is about connection. And that can be with yourself or with your vision as well. I think that's what it harks back to. It also just talks about the simplicity of connecting with people that you really love. 2020 was a challenge. 2016, when Donald Trump came into power, was a huge challenge. I felt like we really lost our footing a bit there as a world. We, was it 2016?
Yeah, that sounds right.
It feels like yesterday and far, far away at the same time.
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of stuff really challenged, like, who are we on the planet and what do we really want? And when it's time to get radical and actually start standing up for the simple things like the planet and our people, all people, yeah. And now it's more than ever obvious. So that's your therapy session for today about politics. And
does that allude into your next song as beautifully as last time?
I don't know. I mean, this song I wrote to myself. It kind of is. This is a song for me that I wrote for me. But it was about. I'll just quickly tune while it's called Brother Get Me Home, or just called Brother. I don't actually have a brother, but I was in a band with 4 boys, 4 men, 4 beautiful men who were my brothers, who were my protectors, my uplifters. They were good men, and I love them, and I love all their families. But it's also about, like, in some ways, my partner is a bit like my brother when we're making music. He's got my back. He's my friend. That sounds a bit weird, but, you know, you got to have each other. And there's 2 parts. One is that my home is out there roaming around, making music and being on tour, and I want to explore. I need to do that. And the other home is I need to go home, and I need to be really quiet, and I need to be with them, and I need to do both. And I think that's the juxtaposition. I don't believe I'm one thing. I'm both. And so there's that. And I think it's also just about, I think that speaks to a lot of people. New Zealanders are really good at travelling. You know, we do want to do things.
Yeah.
It's like this, I don't know. I have to say, being a musician in New Zealand has meant that I have had the good fortune of travelling the whole country that I wouldn't otherwise have seen. And for that, I'm very grateful. I mean, I've played on Stewart Island. Highly recommend. Shall I play this for you?
Go on.
I'll give it a hoon.
I'm falling in an ocean of lives I cannot win. In an ocean, come and give me some metaphor and lane. Brother, give me home. Brother, give me home. Didn't come here, have a betting years in an ocean. In an ocean, come and give me some metaphor and lane. I can see the waves are getting high on a sea coast. I can sense my calling is too plain. Keep it coming, brother, give me home. Brother, give me home. Didn't come here, have a betting years in an ocean. Lives cannot win. In an ocean, come and give me some metaphor lane. Observing light to the painting, tongue out, who you gonna blame? Pushing back, feel the emotion, climbing, then you're devoted. See a light undeniably holding out, circling my sun. I hear you calling out my name. Brother, give me home. Brother, give me home. Didn't come here, have a betting years in an ocean of lives I cannot win. In
Thank you. This is Active Live with Ebony Lamb. Just before that beautiful track, we were chatting about traveling on tour, which you currently are on tour, and you've been playing such a variety of different venue areas and spots and shows. What has it been like playing these sort of unconventional spaces, or why do you choose smaller town tour destinations when you're setting up
I still really have a big following in places outside the centre. I find that when people come to shows that aren't in the centres, they come out. It's really nice. I think there's a incredible world of music appreciation all over the country. For some reason, it reaches people. I think I've been very lucky to have student radio networks being as supportive to me as they have been. I think it's been great, and I have a really big Radio New Zealand national crowd as well. I think that the combination of those spaces is really important to people that are not mainstream musicians. I grew up in Hawke's Bay, and when someone came to town to play, we all went.
Yeah.
Because it didn't always happen. And I think that touring in New Zealand has gotten easier. It used to be like a radical thing to go to some of those places. It's actually more common now. I love connecting with people, so I don't know, I feel happy. I think that I'm on a bit of a I'm in a place where I'm still building. It's a building block, you know. So, I've got plans for bigger things next year, but I'm very happy with the way things are right now. I've had a really good time. Yeah, the first show at Littleton Coffee Company, I played there because they're my friends and I love that place. And people want to go and experience being there after hours. It was almost oversold. It was so packed out.
That's awesome.
And in Dunedin, it's like a much, I've got some stalwart friends who are part of the Dunedin music scene, and they all come out, and I've had lots of friends come out, but it's when you get people that you don't know coming to your shows is the crossover point, and that's happening more and more. And that's a good thing. That's what I need so I can try and have a sustainable career in the arts. I'm not sure.
Exciting. So you're playing Whammy on Friday night up in Tamaki Makaurau, and St. Peter's Village Hall on Saturday.
Yeah, they're both like St. Peter's is, it's my old hometown, is Paekākāriki. I've lived there a couple of times, and I've got very good friends there, but it packs out. It's a really fun hall to play. Have you been to a show there?
No.
I highly recommend don't going, my good England. If there's a band that comes to town and they're playing both, get on the train and go.
Yeah.
It's well worth it.
A nice way to wrap up the tour.
It is. And playing Auckland is a big deal because it's the big smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, they say. And my final question for you this afternoon is our little segment within the Active Live segment where we ask a question forward. So last week's band has asked you a question.
That's right.
And I'd like you to give me a question that's something that you've never been asked but think you should, or something that you would like to ask a musician if you had the opportunity to interview them.
Oh, that's a good way to put it, if I had the opportunity. So what was the question that they asked me?
Would you like to answer their question first?
Yeah, answer their question.
Esby asked, they were saying that everyone's got like a favourite lyric or song that they really love, but what's one of your own lines that you think is a little bit dusty or you're not so happy with anymore?
Well, thankfully, some of those lines are hidden, buried deep underground and taken offline, because I started out my career as a alternative country singer, and I will always have my heart there, but as you can imagine, there's a lot of moons, trains, sad howling dogs, lonesome blues, wind.
Wind in the trees, stars in the sky.
Yeah, it's midnight. And I think this is going to really break some country hearts, but I I was a finalist for the Country Music Awards, and I lost in both categories, but I was the only person nominated for album and song in both categories. So I was a happy loser, you know.
Yeah, that's a big
No,
win in
no
itself.
problem, no problem. Went down to Gore on a song that I knew I shouldn't have put on the record, and it was with that song that I was the finalist. And it's a song that I do love parts of the song, but I wrote it from a place from the wrong motivation.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't that it had weak lines or it's a weak song, but it was the song was motivated to be made so I could make a song that would be played as a country music song that might get some traction. And sadly it did. And I was really disappointed in myself because that's not my motivation for writing songs. My motivation for writing songs is to speak to the integrity or the things I'm trying to work out inside myself. It's much more veiled and poetry-like. I'm fine about that. I'm totally fine about that. I'm an album kind of a girl.
Mm-hmm.
If one day I get a hit, I'm going to be as surprised as the rest of the universe. So I don't know if that speaks to it, but I'm embarrassed that I succumbed to what I thought I needed to do for an industry rather than what was right for my artistry. So maybe that's a different answer, but
it's a great learning for sure. Yeah.
And what would I ask? Tell me the question that I was
Yes,
supposed
yeah.
to ask.
What would you like to ask the next artist next week?
Well, in keeping with I'm on a new adventure with my 404, I would ask the next band if the members, like individually, if they have a secret yearning to play another instrument or sing or have another musical outlet that they're not currently doing right now, because I definitely secretly also want to be a drummer.
Don't we all secretly want to be a drummer?
Yeah, I've tried. I can hold down some basic ideas. That's it. But yeah, look forward to one day being a drummer in someone's band.
Up the back with the drums to keep you protected and the sticks to throw at people.
I think it's a good thing to ask. There are some people out there, maybe also not just an instrument, but maybe some people want to write songs and they haven't even considered that they could. To challenge yourself to say, could I? Maybe you can't, but you could give it a try because you don't know otherwise. And they could be terrible, but they could be beginnings. Yeah.
Well, it's been so lovely chatting with you this afternoon. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for being so indulgent with this. And Radioactive, you're just wonderful. I can't imagine what the New Zealand music landscape would be without these kind of radio stations. I think, as someone was saying recently, as part of the SRN Music Awards, they're like, just remember that for most bands and musicians in the country, the Student Radio Network will be the very first person or radio station that will play your music.
Absolutely.
Ever. And that was true for me. So big shout out to the Americana show. Yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been another active live session made with support from New Zealand On Air, starring Ebony Lamb. I've been Emilia. Ka kite.
Ka kite.
Active Live. Friday, 3:30. Every week a new band. In studio. Brought to you by NZ On Air.